Let's talk about one of the most effective poisons, thallium. Thallium is actually an element on the periodic table with the atomic number of 81. Naturally, thallium is found in the Earth's crust, but is also obtained or produced as a byproduct of many industrial processes such as smelting. It is a kind of silvery metal, and when burned, it produces a bright green flame. However, it is very much not recommended to actually burn because the fumes it releases is incredibly toxic and can be absorbed through the skin and or lungs. Like I said, it is an incredibly toxic metal and a very effective poison. It works by breaking down the cells in your body. Typically, hair follicles are the first ones to go, so some of the earliest symptoms of thallium poisoning is rapid hair loss. Thallium is actually quite a popular poison used by people who want to poison other people's because it takes actually quite a while to work and it's not very easily diagnosable. It takes up to 3 weeks to be fatal and has a variety of symptoms, again starting off with hair loss, as well as abdominal pain, nausea, cramps, bloody diarrhea, and then leading into more severe symptoms such as spasms and convulsions, respiratory or breathing issues, and multiple organ failure, including brain damage, liver failure, lung failure, heart failure, and even mental symptoms such as psychosis. Even if the person affected by thallium poisoning survives, there is almost always long-term damage, such as, again, multiple organ damage and even brain damage, and many times it is fatal due to one of these symptoms that I mentioned up here. Now, historically, thallium has been used in multiple things, including pesticides and rat poisons. It's also been used as a semiconductor in electronics and is often released into the atmosphere through burning of coal. This is a problem because it is very absorbable into the environment. Plants absorb it easily, and things like fish and shellfish absorb it, and people have actually been recorded of getting acute or chronic thallium poisoning from eating shellfish that do have high levels of thallium. It can also enter the soil as well as water and also the air in the atmosphere, and it takes a very long time to break down, so once it enters the environment, it's going to stay in the environment for a long time. Thallium poisoning is quite hard to detect because it is a colorless, odorless, and tasteless material, unless it's in this metal form. Obviously nobody's going to be eating a chunk of metal. People do get poisoned through the accidental ingestion of thallium, but also through absorption, through breathing it from the air if it's been aerosolized, or through the skin and mucous membranes. While elemental thallium, so just this pure metal form, is not water soluble, many thallium compounds are, so it is a problem when it gets into a water source. It also has a decently low LD50 or lethal dose, about 8 to 12 milligrams per kilogram of body weight. Obviously, that varies depending on the health of the individual, the age of the individual, and all that. That's also the oral LD50, so if it's ingested. The respiratory, so breathed in, or the cutaneous on the skin is slightly different. Again, it varies based on the individual. The treatment for thallium is actually quite interesting. One of the most commonly administered treatment other than stomach pumping is Prussian blue. Now, Prussian blue is a pigment that is used to make a very vibrant, bright blue color. It's often used in clothing dyes, in paints, and many other things, but it is also an incredibly good antidote for thallium poisoning. How it works is if you are suspected of being poisoned by thallium, you are administered orally Prussian blue. In the intestines, Prussian blue will bind to the thallium and cause it to be flushed out of the system before it gets absorbed into the rest of the body. The Prussian blue binds very heavily to the thallium and causes it just to be flushed out of the system via the digestive system instead of being absorbed into your cells where it will destroy your cells. Now, it is important to note that the antidote is medical grade Prussian blue. Do not eat paint that has Prussian blue in it. That is not, if you think you've been poisoned by thallium, obviously call poison control and go to the hospital. Do not eat paint. Do not eat paint or die. Do not go eat Prussian blue pigments if you think you've been poisoned by thallium. Just a note. Just a note. This is medical grade Prussian blue, not art grade Prussian blue. The mortality rate of thallium poisoning, whether acute, chronic, on purpose, or accidental, is between 6 and 15% mortality rate, which is decently high because, again, this is a very, very strong poison. Obviously, prompt diagnosis is necessary to be able to find out, hey, what is actually wrong with this person, and thallium poisoning is not an immediate thought for most things, especially since the acute dose does take actually a couple weeks to show symptoms and prove fatal. And typically by the time the more severe symptoms start manifesting, the thallium has already made its way into the system, so it's not super likely that the person will survive, but fortunately, thallium is decently hard to get your hands on, so on-purpose poisonings are very, very rare, and most of the time, the people who have acute thallium poisonings, they are somewhere where they are in proximity to thallium, so like a lab or an industrial smelter or something, so they know that thallium poisoning is a possibility, so it can be treated promptly. All in all, this is one of the scariest poisons, and probably also one of the scariest elements on the periodic table.